Good afternoon. This is Law 2020. You love this show. I know you do. We're asking the experts, and Wade Boyette is with us today from the BCN. That's a BCN law firm. And you could call us right now with any legal question that you've got. And also during the week, he always will extend to you, and so will the other attorneys at the BCN law firm. They'll extend to you a few minutes of free legal advice. Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and how about this? An all-new office right there in the Villages on 466. So you can't beat that. If you're in Leesburg, maybe, if you're up there in Ocala, how about all the big country club communities up that way? Well, you've got the BCN law firm right at your doorstep. All you Wildwood people, Oxford people, growing like a weed in Oxford, all that area, just hit 466 between 301 and 441. You got the BCN law firm there. So you're going to be hearing a lot more about that office as well. We're taking your calls right now at 855-297-9696, 855-297-9696. You can text us at 21232. That's 21232 in the recipient or contact area of your messaging service, or you could try the brand new thing, and that's the new News 96.5 app. You go on there, hit the open mic feature, and say, Wade, this is a question I've got. You don't have to use your real name, by the way. We know it's a legal show, and some of these things are rather sensitive. Well, it's that time of year. You're sending your kids off to school. Some of you are sending your kids off to college. You know, things are changing in your world. Maybe there's been a marriage this summer in your family. Maybe there's been, sadly, a dissolution in your family. Maybe you've had a loved one, like my mom has moved on to assisted living up north. Well, maybe that changes your estate planning. Maybe that changes your wills and the documents that you have. Well, those are things that we'll be discussing today, and we've already got 3 phone lines. Wade, you're lighting them up, bud.
That's good. Before I even have to say a word, I love it.
Good to see you.
It is nice to be here. You know, I've been on vacation, which we do once a year, and, you know, you get out of your routine. It's nice to be back home in a routine. Everyone will get to hear me now for the next 6 or 8 weeks, so I'm looking forward to getting in a routine, getting some good topics out on the air.
Well, we've really enjoyed having Heath on and Brian on, and we actually were introduced to a new person with your firm, and she came in here just nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof, and she said, I thought Wade was going to be here, but what's going to happen? And by 15 minutes into the show, she was in control. That is Eileen.
Yeah, Eileen's an amazing attorney.
She ran the whole radio station before she left.
She is great. She's been with us about 3 years, and when she came to us from California, and when she was in California, she was one of the top 50 attorneys under 40. So she's a very qualified, great attorney, and getting her on the air was a job because she did not want to come on. But once she got here, I knew she'd do a great job.
She loves it. I think she's going to be a regular. She really enjoys it. Now. And I'll tell you what, it's really good, and she had a lot of great information for us, too. Don't forget about the text line at 21232. That's 21232. But you could ask us a question. Here we go. Let's go right to Tom. Tom, go ahead. What's going on, man?
Hello. I was calling concerning a friend of mine who about 9 days ago was shopping at a major grocery store chain, which he goes to weekly. He was with his wife, and there was a wet spot on the floor, which he didn't see, and he slipped and fell. And immediately when that happened, one of the employees came over and wiped the floor and got the manager, who did an incident report. And anyway, my friend continues to experience a lot of pain. He did see a doctor who had x-rays done and found that there was some injuries to his lower spine. My friend is not working. He can't because of this injury. And he did get a call back from the headquarters of the shopping chain, and they offered him $1,000 if he, I guess, to go away. But anyway, of course, his wages, the loss of wages has been more than $1,000. And plus, there's the medical and other things. And the question I have is, does that supermarket have a responsibility for the problems that has occurred because of this incident? And shouldn't he consult an attorney? Does he have a case based on that?
Yeah, Tom, I mean, the easy answer is absolutely. we handle a lot of slip and fall cases in our office, and it is not uncommon for someone to go into a shopping center, someone to have not cleaned up an area of the grocery store when they should have. Someone falls, gets hurt, can't go to work, or just gets injured. Please have your guy give us a call. They can call me directly. If he needs to get in touch with me this weekend, he can email me at my email address, which is wboyette@BCN Law Firm, and we'll have someone get with him right away and see if we can handle it.
Okay, what's the name of the law firm?
BCN.
DCN, like dog, Charlie, November?
Like Boy Charlie November.
Boy Charlie November, and law firm. And can you tell me the phone number he can call?
Absolutely. The phone number is 352-394-2103 or 855-LAW-2020.
Okay, that's 352-394. What was the last, please?
2103.
2103. And he can call in tomorrow morning?
He can call in tomorrow morning starting at 8 o'clock.
All right, let's go to Pamela. Pamela, thank you for the call. You're on the air with Wade Boyette.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I was calling regarding bankruptcy, and I was wanting to find out if I should claim bankruptcy before I have to do an offer in compromise with the IRS. Which one should I do first, the bankruptcy or the offer in compromise?
And Pamela, and that's tricky. Let me ask you a question. When were your taxes assessed?
For the last 2 years.
For the last 2 years. So they're pretty recent tax obligations?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay. With a bankruptcy, you cannot discharge recent taxes. So the bankruptcy will not help you in the tax situation. So it's not going to really make a difference if you do your offer in compromise before or after. Now, here's where it will help. When you do an offer in compromise with the Internal Revenue Service, one thing you're trying to convince them of or show them is you do not have the ability to pay your taxes. If you file bankruptcy, one of the things you're showing the IRS is you do not have the ability to pay your taxes. So maybe filing the bankruptcy first would be the best thing to do.
So filing the bankruptcy first is advisable?
That's what I would do. I would at least get the bankruptcy started. Let's file the offer and compromise at roughly the same time. Let's get in front of the IRS and start negotiating.
Right. The IRS gave me a month to submit my taxes for the last 2 years. And the only money I have now is what's left of my 401k.
Okay, and and I'll talk to you a little bit more about this if you call me, but your 401k is protected. So do not pull the money out of the 401k until you talk to someone.
Okay, thank you so much. And let's go to Moira. And what's going on with you?
I'm at the end of modification for my home, and it looks like it's going to go through. I'm kind of tired of the house. I want to keep it, but it's just a bit too much for me. Is there any way that I can deed it to my sister-in-law? She wants the house.
Yeah, Mara, the problem is the moment you deed the property to your sister, you're going to trigger something in the mortgage called a due on sales clause, and that gives the bank another right to actually foreclose or accelerate the loan. Probably the best thing to do is if the modification is something that's beneficial for you, accept the modification and then lease it to your sister or let your sister move in and make the mortgage payments.
Yeah, okay. That sounds, I was thinking about that too. All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you have other questions, please call me.
Is there also a legal document that she can make out with you that would transfer ownership of that property to her sister upon her death?
Absolutely. We could either do a very simple will, which would accomplish that, or if she wanted to, we could do a deed keeping a life estate in her with the remainder in her sister.
All right, when we come back, we'll take more of your phone calls. We've got all open lines right now, 7 open lines, but we do have a text we're going to get to as well when we get back. And we are talking about legal documents, things you need to be addressing, the way things change, problems that people have because they don't address that change, and they don't change their will, they don't change some of their medical provisions. You got to be doing it. Wade's going to approach that. You were talking about Law 2020, and we're right here on News 96.5. 7 minutes before news, traffic, and weather. I'm watching that radar, and right now we're in the clear in Central Florida, but we'll keep an eye on it all day long. There's a really good chance we'll have some pretty good severe weather moving in this afternoon, so we'll be watching that for you. You stay on top of it right here at News 96.5, plus traffic and all the news coming your way, and boy, it's a popping out there right now. All right, let's go to Jim on line 1. Jim, what's your call about?
Hello.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Went through a bankruptcy, Chapter 13, about 5 years ago, finished up about 5 years ago. The bank kept my interest rate at zero interest rate, and I was wondering if I miss a payment or two now, can they still foreclose on it?
Hey, Jim, have you finished your plan under the Chapter 13?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you're done, and so now you're just continuing to pay your mortgage. If you miss any payments on the mortgage, it's just going to be like anyone else missing a payment. You know, if you miss a payment, they'll send you a default letter. If you continue missing payments after 90 days, they have a right to send you, a complaint to foreclose on your home. So, yeah, I definitely would not miss too many payments.
Right. Okay. Good enough. Because they kept the interest rate at zero.
That is. Yeah, unbelievable. Definitely keep you.
Oh.
You can't get better than zero.
Right, that's correct. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Don't mess that up, Jim. All right, we have a text from 0534. Do grandparents have any rights with their grandchildren? The child's mother is a very difficult person and likes to use the child to get back at the family. Or, ma'am, your text didn't go any farther, but what do you say about grandparents' rights?
Yeah, and I get the gist of it. There are some rights that the grandparents have, unfortunately, and I see this all the time. Parents can and do use their kids against, their grandparents. And unless it's something really bad, there's not much the grandparents going to do. What the parents need to understand, it's not the grandparents that they're hurting, it's the grandchild. It's a sad situation. Every child deserves to have a relationship with their grandparents. I mean, grandparents offer a lot to their grandkids.
Now, not knowing the rest of this situation, but there's probably situations out there where a mother or father is using the kids as a pawn against their ex and saying, hey, your mother's bad or your father did this and that sort of thing. Is there recourse after a divorce where you can go back to the court or whatever and say, hey, they don't need to be doing this stuff?
There is, and that would all be handled and for example, Brian in our office who handles our family law matters, he would go in and we would try in the settlement negotiations or into the divorce decree, make sure those grandparents have a right to see their grandkids.
All right, very good. 1225. So we're done with our text. We have no callers on there. We were talking about you're sending your kids off to school. This is kind of a time where you need to start reflecting a little bit on all of your legal documents now that you've got some time. What are some of the things that parents need to think about when they've sent their kids up east or up even to Tallahassee to school, or you Gators or you Miami people? Don't leave anybody out, UCF, But what do they need to be thinking about?
One of the things, what happens this time of year, and it happens every summer up, is people start flocking into the office to get their estate planning in order. Or, their kids are going off to camp and they need to have medical directives in place. Just in case something does happen to the kids, they need to appoint someone who can make decisions for their kids while they're gone. Mm-hmm. So what I see a lot are, parents coming in. It's one of the first times during the year, especially with older children. I'll see, mom and dad calling up older kids, getting the grandkids together, and they take a true family vacation where everyone's traveling together. And they're worried if something happens to the family as a whole, who's going to step in? Where are the assets going to go? And they start really worrying about it. And then they sit down, and unfortunately, they usually wait until a day before they are taking off to go on vacation and are scrambling, and it's tough to make, coherent decisions.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything the parents need to worry about liability-wise or a connection when their kids are taking the family car off to college?
Liability in the sense of if the child is taking the college car off. I've had a daughter who's in college, and I know those college days can be a little less than normal. They they like having a good time. So if possible, I'd rather put the car in their name than yours, because there is quite a bit of liability exposure, or carry really good insurance, because it's not a matter of if something's going to happen. It's when it's going to happen.
There you go. Nicely put. I like the way you did that. Very subtle. And, of course, he wasn't talking about, his kids in particular. But
I did not have gray hair until my daughter went to college.
It does get a little bit strange when they're out there. All right. How about in some of these issues, we talked in a previous show, and it really touched a lot of people, that mom and dad have made up their estate plan, and it includes the son and the daughter-in-law. Right. And over the last year, the daughter-in-law is no longer part of the equation, but they didn't change their legal documents.
Right, and that happens a lot. It happens two ways. Probably more often than not, parents don't like their daughter-in-law or their son-in-law. And the first question they say is the son-in-law or daughter-in-law going to be part of this? And the answer is no, unless they make them a part of it. Now, once you make them a part of the estate, they are part of the estate.
So if you say my son Bill Jones and his wife Mary Jones, you've included her, even though a divorce would sever that, she's still part of that document,
She's
right?
still part of that document. They need to come in and get those documents changed. And I also see the situation where the parents are closer to their daughter or son-in-law than they are to their own child.
Do you?
So I've had it where they've kept the daughter and son-in-law in and cut their child out. So I've seen it, in every situation.
Have you also had clients come to you that says, I got 3 kids, and Mary Jo has been a saint, and Billy's been a good son, but that Rob, that guy, we've had problems, and I don't want to address this in the will, but can I just put something in there that just says I don't want him to get anything?
And you can. And every family, and I am so blessed that I have a family that's very close, but I can tell you most family, if not all families, have issues. And I see that a lot where, maybe it's not that they don't want to leave their child assets. Maybe it's the child can't handle the assets, or it may not be in their best interest. I do this. I address issues with clients regarding social vices. A lot of people have social vices, whether it's gambling or alcoholism or drug addictions. And we address that by putting provisions in the will that hold the assets from those children's grasp until they get straightened out.
Or even being a radio host.
Or being a radio host.
I mean, goodness gracious me. How irresponsible. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back more with Wade Boyette. It's the BCN law firm, BCN, and we'll give you contact information when we come back. Name of the show, Law 2020. We'll be back. We get the best bump music when Tim's on the board. I'm telling you what. Yeah, producer Tim, he's with us today. We're going to ask the experts all day long, but right now it is Law 2020. The telephone numbers for the BCN Law Group are 352-394-2103, or you hear the commercial and then you sing it the rest of the week. You know what I'm talking about. You can call 855-LAW-2020. And you start singing that, you'll be singing it all week. Somebody's going to say, knock that off. 855-LAW-2020, the BCN law firm. We have a string of guests that usually come on: Wade Boyette, Heath Nalos, Brian Monk, and Eileen Mazinetz. And they all come in and give us great legal advice. You can call in at any time with any legal question you've got, and you can join us right now at 855-297-9696. Text us at 21232, or use the all-new open mic feature. We never get people using the open mic. You need to do that. Go to 96.5, the app, and have that on your phone, and then right down there where it says open mic, touch that. You see the record button, hit it, record your deal, then you can put your phone down and head out, do whatever you need to do, and you'll hear Wade answer your question. Main topic today is we're talking about documents, things you need to be thinking about, wills, end of life, all that sort of thing, all the things that you need to know. And boy, with the enhanced HIPAA laws and all this new stuff, everything that's going on security-wise, you almost need to have an attorney with you when you just contact the hospital because you've got somebody in there. It is amazing.
It is tough, and that's whenever you go to the hospital, that's not the time to be making those decisions or starting to think about your end-of-life issues or your medical issues. I tell clients all the time, get in there before you have to make those tough decisions because usually then emotions kick in. And when the emotions kick in, you're not going to probably make the decision that you would if you were doing it when you were just calm.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that we've got a lot of family activities coming up. You got Thanksgiving in not too distant future, a matter of weeks, actually. And what a great time to sit down. And still in August, you may have a family reunion, you may have a wedding. It would be nice to maybe sit down for a few minutes during that and kind of clear the air on a lot of things, right?
Absolutely. The best thing to do when you're dealing with estate planning is communicate. Sit down with your spouse, sit down with your significant other, sit down with your children if you feel comfortable doing that, and talk about the decisions that need to be made. Going back to my situation, hopefully we're going to have a family Thanksgiving in North Carolina together. So the entire family on both my side and Nick, my girlfriend's side, we're going to all be together. We've got some tough decisions to make. If something did happen to us on a trip, there's some serious issues that need to be considered and dealt with.
Mm-hmm. Especially those that have businesses. In a show earlier today, there was a discussion about, if you have, and it was a financial planning show, but if you have like partners and you got key people and you're thinking, what if my partner passed away or became incapacitated? Do I get along with his wife? Do I get along with his son?
Absolutely. And again, part of estate planning, every business that I set up, and I do a ton of business law, and I advise a lot of business owners not only about how to create their business effectively, but how to get out of their business effectively. And getting out of their business may be because one of the partners or one of the members of a corporation, shareholders of a corporation, pass away. I know in our situation, our law firm, there's two partners, Heath Nalos and myself. And, we both, before we even formed our company, one of the key things we talked about is what happens if one of us, end up passing away or, get injured. We need to deal with that today. And so we're set up. We know if either something happens to either of us, our business will survive past one of us.
Mm-hmm. And I can just imagine that that's going to take not only a lot of planning, but a lot of soul searching. You got to get your wife involved, your girlfriend involved. You need to get anybody that's your significant others in on the plan, right? So they're not shocked with what happens.
Absolutely. And, there's a lot of people who own businesses, a lot of professionals out there that the only person who can step into their shoes is another professional with their license. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure, well, if you were to pass away, how can you replace that income that you had coming in? How can you make sure your significant other is taken care of with the loss of your income? And we help them doing that through their estate planning and business succession planning.
Do you also help people who are getting ready to sell a business to make sure that everything is covered? As far as getting out from under that business and making sure that everything's in the other guy's camp now.
Absolutely. When we speak to someone when they're selling their business, we look at it from several points of view. One, from a liability point of view, make sure we transfer the liability with the sale of the business. Also, I look from a tax standpoint, is my client making the most tax advantageous decision in how they're structuring that transaction? Mm-hmm. And then, if my client's selling the business, I want to make sure they get paid. How are we making sure we get the cash for our business?
Okay, let's see. Does a company have to pay for your travel time once you enter the company vehicle, or can they designate a particular amount of minutes before you can start getting paid?
Let me make sure I understand that question. They're going to, if you were working, you're on the clock and you should be getting paid. So your salary should be starting the moment that you do any work for your employer. Do they have to reimburse you for travel time? If you're using the employer's car and the employer's gas, then the expense of the vehicle is on them. Mm-hmm. But they should be paying your salary or your compensation for the moment that you do anything related to their business.
This may very well be tied to an earlier text on a different show 3 or 4 weeks ago that the person said, even though we drive the company car, we don't get paid until we reach the job and we start working on their air conditioning.
Right. Well, commuting is a different story. If you're commuting back and forth to work, you're not working for the employer then. You're just commuting to your employer's place of business. But once you get to that place of business and you leave that place of business for anything related to that employment, you should be compensated whether you're in the car or not.
You know, and that's coming up a lot with current law and legislation. If somebody is working at their house, they get a phone call, they get a text, and they're not exempt full-time salaried employees, they should be turning in that time, right?
They should. And, I deal with this at the law office, and, I talk to a lot of people. It's so easy to work from home. Cell phones make it very tough. And what an employer has to do is has to have a great policy manual for their employees. And one of those policies should be no working after business hours. You cannot condone the use of the employee's cell phone, their computer, returning emails, because if that employee goes home every night and spends 3 hours working on their computer or on their cell phone for the business, and they're doing it and you condone them doing it, then you owe them compensation for that time.
And am I going out on a limb when I say maybe not only compensation, but they get up to walk across and get a cup of coffee and they fall in their living room? Is that employee on the company workman's comp at that point?
And I can't answer that, but I would assume yes, they would be if the employer knows about it. In their case, it's working out of a home office.
So wow, and in some of my other enterprises in life, we've been talking about that a lot lately. You got a guy at home and he's working on a script or he's working on something like that, and he's doing it. You darn well better be paying him.
Yeah, it's amazing, and we probably get 30 to 40 phone calls a week dealing with employment law issues, and probably, a small fraction of them, we sit down and we listen to, because there is so much abuse by employers of employees when it comes to overtime pay or wage issues or employment issues. If, we represent a lot of employers, and we tell the employers you have to have a good policy and procedure manual in place. And not only do you have to have it in place, you have to be consistent in following it.
All right, very good. We're going to take a break right now, and I'll give you contact information about the BCN Law Firm when we get back. I do want to remind you that we welcome you to participate in the show. You don't have to use your real name on legal issues. 855-297-9696. 855-297-9696. Text us at 21232. That's 21232. Dave Wall's in the newsroom with three big things you need to know. All right, we're getting some employment questions here, and that's kind of cool. During the week, anytime rather, 7 days a week, you want to get a hold of the BCN Law Firm, you're very welcome to do so. You can call 352-394-2103 or 855-LAW-2020. That's 855-LAW-2020. Sing that to yourself. Also, it's BCN Law Firm, BCN Law Firm.com. Offices now in Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and the all-new facilities right there in the Villages. And so this is a cool thing. They got one near you wherever you are, and they're always as close as a phone. A few minutes of free consultations are welcome at 352-394-2103. All right, you can call the show right now at 855-297-9696, 855-297-9696. Let's see. Are you compensated for working lunches?
The answer is you should be compensated for working lunches if you're working overtime during those lunches. I mean, everyone's entitled to a lunch break. Everyone's entitled to only work, the required hours or the certain hours per week. If working lunches throws you over those hours, you should be paid overtime.
All right. Here's an interesting one. I'd love to know all of the ramifications of this or the whole story behind it. The untold story, what's written between the lines is this person was told to go back or went back to a client's place to maybe finish up a job or fix a mistake or whatever it was. But can an employer deduct money from your paycheck for a return visit to one of the company's clients?
And the general, I don't see how they can deduct money for, you're still on the clock. You're having to go complete the task, whether, the mistake was made by the employee's own doing. He's still working for the employer and still on the employer's clock, so they should not be able to deduct.
Oh, and this says the return visits by another technician from the same company. So,
no, I see this happening where an employer feels an employee doesn't do an adequate job, so they have someone else step in and do that employee's job and try to deduct from the employee's pay what it costs them to have the job completed. That should not be the case. If you're not that unhappy with the employee's work, then, in Florida, it's pretty easy to terminate an employee because we're an at-will state, and the employer should just terminate the employee.
Tell us about that at-will thing. It's pretty much if they don't like your cologne, you can pretty well be gone around here, right?
It is. I mean, an employer has a lot of power and a lot of rights in Florida. If the employer wakes up in a bad mood that day and does not like the performance you're doing, they have the right to terminate you. Now, they cannot terminate you if they're doing so because you're part of a protected class. If they are terminating you because of race, or your sex, that those things, you're part of a protected class, they can't do it. But if they walk in and they don't like your red shirt you have on that day and they want to terminate you, they can terminate you.
I like that case that got so much national publicity a month or so ago about the woman that they said was just too pretty to work in the place. She was too distracting.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
Being pretty is not part of the protected class.
Sometimes it's a distraction. Yeah. Hey, Tim, we have lost our computers on this side of the room, so can you bring us up to date on who we have calling in, my friend?
Looks like we've got Brian on the line with a question.
All right, Brian, go right ahead, my friend. You're on the air.
Sure, thank you. Listen, my wife invited her niece, who lived out of state. Her parents are in a bad divorce, and they have gotten divorced, and neither one can really help her financially or wants to. So my wife invited her to come live with us, and we would let her live with us for free. We're not charging her any money, and while she works and goes to school. But she's not really keeping up with her end of the bargain as far as house rules and things. So we're thinking about asking her to, find another place to live, ask her to move out, basically. And I'm wondering if she's lived with us for a little more than a year now. Do we have to evict her, or can we simply ask her to leave?
You can ask her to leave. Brian, how old is she?
19.
19. You could ask her to leave and, tell her, it's working, causing a distraction for the family.
Yeah.
And she should leave.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate your help.
Sorry you're in that tough situation. I know it's hard when you open up your house to someone, and the way I tell people, whoever owns the house, it's their rules. She should follow.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We get that all the time with people who call in and say, "I was just trying to help out this family, so I let them move in."
Yeah. Sometimes, that no deeds, good deed goes unpunished. Sometimes that's true.
All right, very good. If you have a text, you can go ahead and text us at 21232, 21232. Are we seeing any changes? I know new laws go into effect. Some went into effect this summer in July 1. Some will go into effect October 1st. Any major laws that are going to be changing our documentation or our ways that we do things about employment in this state?
Not a lot in employment that I know of. I think things are pretty consistent there.
Mm-hmm.
The latest big changes in what I do, the LLC laws were changed recently. So I'm seeing a lot of corporate clients come in and having to update their LLC documents. That's probably one of the biggest changes I've seen.
And what's the deadline on that?
This year. By the end of this year, we need to have their regulations changed.
Ouch.
So we still have 6 or 7 months, 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And remind everybody to make their quarterlies on time and to have that annual corporate meeting.
That's correct.
Even if it's just two people.
Just take a vacation, a company vacation, sit down over a nice bottle of wine and put your minutes together.
And if you need any help with that, or if you need help in filling out, let's do this in the final minute. Let's talk about the difference between seeing a knowledgeable Florida attorney who knows the law and knows the way the law is enforced in the state and going down to the big box office store or online and just filling out that will or that medical release program and just doing it because they found a form.
You know, Rob, a lot of times I love it when people go down and do their own work, because the serious cases that come into our office are the ones where the client a lot of times have done it themselves. They've gotten in a situation now they need an attorney, and it's a lot easier to do things right to start off with than it is to clean it up. So the clients that we love to see are the ones that messed it up.
All right, the BCN Law Firm. One more time, let me give you their number, 855-LAW-2020, 352-394-2103. We'll do it again next week. Listen in.